Have I applied it in my own life? I'll just be very candid. The answer is yes. In the year 2000, in a routine medical exam, I was told I had something inside my body that shouldn't be there, in my bladder, and I needed surgery. We're claiming it. We're pulling it out of that soup to make it real. So the example that I gave of my native friend creating rain in the high desert of northern Mexico, the rain existed in the quantum possibility. He claimed it through his senses. He felt the feeling as if he were standing in the mud. He smelled the smells of the rain.
Welcome, Gregg.
Tiffany, I am so excited to be here today and really thrilled to talk about this topic. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to these questions.
Thank you. We're excited to have you too. I get so many great questions from our members, and just the fact that you're here is just an honor for me to talk to you, but also for our members that really are looking for answers. So thank you.
Can I share a little secret with our members? Where we're sitting right now is the very room, the very studio, and the very place where all of Missing Links was filmed originally. So this is like deja vu coming back, and it's the rest of the program. So it feels really good to be here with you. Thank you.
Love it, love it. So it's just like they're here with us today. So
yeah.
Let's go ahead and get started with Leanne's question. She wants to know, can you clarify the connection between our heart's intelligence and our subconsciousness? Are they the same intelligence, or is the heart our higher consciousness, which acts as a gateway to our subconsciousness? I think it's important to understand if our blocking subconscious beliefs can affect our heart's intelligence and the messages it gives us.
That's a really good, actually, 3 or 4 questions that are in there. So I want to address this quickly at a high level, but I want to be complete, and I want to be complete in saying this. 1991, as I talked about in Missing Links, the discovery of 40,000 specialized cells in the human heart changed the way we think about the heart forever. These are sensory neurites. They're essentially brain-like cells, but they're not in the brain. They're in the heart. They think, remember, and learn independently of the brain and our head. And one of the ways that independence occurs is our heart doesn't work through the filters of the ego, the self-doubt, the criticism that we hear from the time that we're young, sometimes from people that are closest to us. So when we communicate directly with our hearts, the information usually comes quickly, it's very concise, it's very direct, there's no preamble or introduction to the answer, and it doesn't need to have that because it's not going through those filters. Our brain, on the other hand, when we ask ourselves a question, our brain, we can go through the loop, the endless loop of all the doubt and the criticisms and the questions and the circular logic and the reasoning. That is a distinction between the heart and the brain. However, the brain can think in logic. The heart doesn't think in logic in the same way. So this is how they function independently. What we are talking about in Missing Links is these 2 separate organs may be harmonized into a single potent neural network so that we can tap the benefit of both. And when we do that, we harmonize the heart and the brain through the process that I shared in Missing Links, where we create a 0.1 hertz signal between the heart and the brain. We feel the feelings to create that signal. That is the hotline to the subconscious. It is the harmonization of the heart and the brain that gives us direct access into the subconscious. So when we are working with our heart, we're working with heart wisdom. And the beauty of that heart wisdom is that we can ask anything that we choose to ask. And what I'm hearing in this question is, how do we know what we're hearing? And this is people ask me this all the time, Tiffany. They'll come up to me and they'll say, I had this dream, and it was so vivid and very detailed, and they'll give me all the details about this dream. And then they look at me and they say, what did it mean? And I have to say to them, I have no idea, because it's your dream. If you're empowered to have the dream, or you receive a message from the universe, and you're not sure what that means, you're empowered to use the system to go back and query this intelligence. What does this mean in my life? What am I being shown in this dream? Where's this intelligence coming from? Where's this message originating? Rather than trying to guess. And this heart-brain communication empowers us to be able to do that. So we're talking, heart-brain is the connection to the subconscious without going through a hypnosis or a relaxation or anything like that.
I think it's interesting that you even mentioned the idea of talking to the heart and having a conversation with it. Let's move on to Lisa's question about manifestation. So I'm going to read the whole thing because it's really interesting the way she words it. You related the story of a shaman manifesting an outcome, in this case rain, through the mind framework of it already having occurred, and internalizing it correspondingly with the feeling of wet feet, etc. How does this paradigm compare with that of intention? For example, if I set my intention towards manifesting a particular reality or goal, is that self-defeating in the sense that I am desiring an outcome rather than treating it as already realized? Does intention still play a role in manifesting?
It's a great question, and once again, and not surprisingly, there are multiple questions within that question. I'll be as concise as I can. Part of this, we're dealing with language. The word intention means different things to different people. A lot of the answer is in how intention is defined by the person asking the question. And there's a difference, there's a distinction. When we intend something, more often than not, there is no outcome, it's open-ended. So we can intend that we're going to be abundant. We can intend that our perfect mate is manifesting for us in our lives. And to the universe is very literal. Nature interprets that very literally, and if you say, I intend for this to happen, the universe will say, okay, you can intend and intend and intend and intend, but there's no outcome. There's no way for that intent to become manifest on the one hand. On the other hand, when we come from the sense that whatever it is that we're hoping to have in our world is already in place, when we begin with the outcome, this is so powerful and it's so subtle. This is a form of prayer that was lost in the 4th century when it was edited out of the modern Christian text by the church in the 4th century. And we see this form of prayer in the edited books such as the Gospel of Thomas, where we're told to begin with the outcome as if it's already happened. Begin with the healing, claim the healing, give thanks for what's already there. And people say, well, am I fooling myself if I do that? If I'm giving thanks for something I don't see? And the answer is no, and here's the reason why. We are quantum beings as well as linear, mechanistic beings. We live in both worlds. On the quantum level, all possibilities already exist. Your perfect mate already exists. Perfect abundance already exists. Perfect healing already exists. What we do, and this is, again, I'm probably not even doing it justice in this brief period of time, when we, through our heart-brain harmony, so think about this, the electrical and magnetic fields of the heart and the brain, the heart is 5,000 times more powerful magnetically than the brain. And it's at least 100 times more powerful electrically than the brain. When you combine these together, what we're doing, you can think of it this way, we are literally, through heart-brain harmony, we are reaching in to the soup, the quantum soup of all possibilities. And the possibility that is nebulous and moving around, we are collapsing it, we're claiming it, we're pulling it out of that soup to make it real. So the example that I gave of my native friend creating rain in the high desert of northern Mexico, the rain existed in the quantum possibility. He claimed it through his senses. He felt the feeling as if he were standing in the mud. He smelled the smells of the rain coming off of the walls of his Pueblo village, as well as feeling the feeling of gratitude for the rain that's already happening. And in that way, these are the words that we use for the inner technology, the quantum technology, to collapse the waves of possibilities into the particle world of something actually happening. So the answer is yes. No, that is the distinction between intention. And again, this is part of the problem with the way many people are taught to do affirmations. Affirmations are powerful, they're good, and an affirmation has to be given a way to resolve itself. So the resolution comes in the outcome. So if you say, I'm ready, I'm now ready to manifest my perfect partner, the universe will say, okay, you're ready, and you're ready now, and you're ready tomorrow, and you're ready. You can be ready for a bajillion years because there's no outcome. Does that make sense if I say it that way?
Absolutely.
So the difference in quantum, rather than saying you're open to something, you're claiming as if it has already occurred. So in the words of the Master Jesus, not from a religious perspective, but as a masterful teacher, what he told his students was be surrounded by your desire. Be surrounded by your joy so that it can be fulfilled. The only way to be is for it to have already happened, to feel the feelings as if it's already there. And so we're talking about the power of human emotion to bring an internal technology of quantum manifestation into reality in our physical world. And we're trying to do it in a couple of minutes.
That's interesting.
On this Q&A.
It makes me think, so the editing out of almost the key, there's like these key words, so I wonder if it's a bit of telephone happening when it gets reinterpreted, or if it's more they intentionally know that if you ask in knowing, that it will be. It's kind of a hard thing to understand.
As a scientist, I can only speculate on that. I'll say that the impact of removing this from our most cherished and sacred spiritual text of 2/3 of the religious world, the 2 billion plus Christians and Judeo-Christian traditions, is the net effect is that people were left feeling powerless and helpless in a world where they actually have the ability not to control and not to manipulate, but to influence and tip the scales of balance in their favor. And for me, that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And Daniela C. wants to know a little bit more about this. So this is another long question, and it's really well written, so I'll read it out. Okay. She says, if a group of people have the intention and the power to emanate a peaceful feeling that may condition those within their radius in a positive way, like decreasing episodes of crime and violence, for example, presumably there's also the possibility to do the same with negative intentions in order to achieve the exact opposite. If this is a potential reality, it is also presumable that powerful stakeholders may have used these tactics to obtain the public support for acts of war, economic maneuvers, etc. Without going into too much conspiracy theory, how can we recognize those feelings which are not our own?
Well, that's a different question. So let me do this. I'm going to back off. Rather than being that specific, let me say in general, because I get this question a lot. If we can feel the feeling and create good things, can other people feel the feelings and create bad things? That's the essence. Would you agree? Is that the essence of the question?
Yeah, I agree.
Nature has built in a fail-safe, which is so awesome when you think about this. And here's the way it works. Whatever it is that we claim, whatever it is that we create, we will experience in our own bodies, in our own cells, in our own existence before it ever becomes manifest in the world around us. Okay. So if we are beings of cooperation, peace, love, and healing, what a beautiful thing for us not only to choose that for the world, but for us to claim it for ourselves as well. If we are, in my estimation, abusing this power to create harmful things for other people, we will experience that harm, and it will destroy us before it will ever have the impact that many people are concerned about in the world around us. Nature's fail-safe.
So
does that make sense? If I answer
does.
I want to be brief, but I want to be concise.
No, it is. And basically, we create our own feelings so we can tell if they're our own or not.
Well, if the question is this feeling my own? This is the power of harmonizing the heart and the brain. Any experience, this is a beautiful question of where we've been taught to feel disempowered, when in fact we are empowered to go in and ask. Specifically these kinds of, when there's no one else to ask, when there's no book to ask, and everybody, I have friends who have health issues, and every one of their friends is giving them advice that's different, and they're pulled in a million directions. Drink this, smoke this, wear one of these crystals, eat this much. They're all good for some things, but how do you know what's right for you? Nobody can tell you. And this is one of those times where nobody can tell you. This is where you harmonize the heart and the brain. You go into your heart wisdom and you ask what's right for you in this moment. Part of my heritage is Cherokee, Southeastern Cherokee, and there's a word for what we're talking about. It's called Shante Ishta. Shante Ishta means the single eye of the heart, the eye that knows what's right for you in this moment, not for your neighbor, not for your parents, your sibling, only for you in this moment. And this question is a perfect example. If you want to know what it is that you're hearing, go into your heart and ask. And you're empowered to do that.
Yes, thank you. Let's talk about the amazing doctors in China that healed
Sure.
the tumor. So Javier, you wants to know, have you learned to heal yourself with the power of belief, as seen with the tumor with all the doctors surrounding the one lady?
My answer is it goes beyond belief. It is claiming. There is the belief that it's possible, and then there's the claiming it in our lives. What I showed in the film, these were Qigong masters. And I studied with the man that made the film, so I've experienced personally, and I have applied it in my own life. And I've talked about it in some of my books and programs. It is quantum healing, and we can answer this now because of the previous questions. What they are doing in that film is an example of what we spoke about 3 questions ago, of reaching into the quantum field of all possibilities, claiming the one that has already happened, and with the power of those 3 practitioners who are attuned to the human energy field and to what we would call the pranic energy field, of making that possibility a reality. In the Missing Link series, I showed the film where we could see with an ultrasound, a sonogram inside the body of a living woman whose condition changed in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. What you were seeing in that 2 minutes and 40 seconds is how quickly that quantum possibility can replace an existing possibility, because it's all quantum. Have I applied it in my own life? I'll just be very candid. The answer is yes. In the year 2000, in a routine medical exam, I was told I had something inside my body that shouldn't be there, in my bladder, after I'd been seeing this film for years in front of live audiences, and I needed surgery. And I said, give me 2 weeks. And I applied everything that I've ever learned, but still I had that little doubt that we often have. And I said, how do I know if it's real? I went to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, and actually underwent what we thought was going to be a procedure. And I was anesthetized. And when I woke up, the doctor was saying to me, why are you here? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, there's nothing to remove. There's no sign that it was. There's no redness. There's no scarring. Why? And he was trying to figure out why his team was working on somebody that didn't need to be worked on. I was anesthetized, so I was trying to explain to him about quantum healing and medicaless hospital in Beijing, China, as he would turn and walk out the door, because there's nothing in his belief system where that would fit. So the answer is I have applied it in my own life, and I do. Rather than trying to apply it, I try to live it. I do my very best, and I'm a student. I'm learning. I'll learn to my last day on earth. But I think the best we can do is not to discount the wisdom of those who have come before us, but to embrace it where it makes sense, marry it with the best science of the modern world to be the best people that we can be.
Love it. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. And I love that you said that you're always learning. I heard a quote the other day that teachers always have teachers. It doesn't stop there. There's always another level. So it's beautiful. A little bit more about 3D reality. So she or he says, I'm trying to maintain a liftoff from the 3D reality. I've stopped watching TV. So the question is, what vision can I maintain in my mind of a future dimension?
If I'm understanding what's asked, what vision DJ can maintain is the vision that brings joy to his or her heart and that makes their soul sing. And this is the beauty. We have personal vision, we have collective vision. I couldn't possibly tell this individual what vision to hold. And I'm not sure when they talk about a dimensional reality, I'm not sure exactly where the question fits into that. So I may not be doing justice to this question. We live in a three-dimensional world, and we're here. I mean, that's our reality. We also live in other dimensions simultaneously. When we go to sleep in our dream states, we're in other dimensions as well, and they're all very real. There are indigenous tribes that spend, some that are in Africa, that spend more time in the dream state than they do in the waking. They wake up every once in a while to go to the bathroom, get a bite to eat. Their tribal business, their elders, their marriages, they're all arranged in the dream state. If you and I were to go in their tribe, we would look and say, oh, they're all sleeping. it's a lucid dream. They've learned to stay awake in their dreams in that altered state, and they live much of their lives in another dimensional reality. We tune ours out, and we tend to isolate one reality or another. So it's an interesting question. I'm not sure I've honored it and done justice, but that's what I'm understanding right now.
I'm wondering if it's more about like what will you see in this other dimension? What should you be focusing on if you know that?
Well,
can help control
what the
it.
evidence, as a scientist, I'm a trained scientist, what the evidence suggests in the other dimensions is we won't be seeing much of anything because we won't use our eyes the way we use our eyes now. We use our eyes to interpret signals of light because we've separated ourselves from our world. In other dimensions, we're not that separate. So we become the essence of that world. We're not seeing it as separate.
Yeah. Let's talk about Catherine's question. And I'm happy that she asked this question because I just think as Gaia and a network, people feel sometimes disconnected when the people around them, the people you grow up with and
Sure.
go to school with, go to church with, have different opinions about the
Absolutely.
heart-mind connection. So let's talk about her question. She says, waking up can be a lonely process for many. Would you mind giving us your top 3 most important things to do to move forward once you have come into your truth? It seems to be really easy to get stalled by fear, even when you're aware that fear is just an illusion.
I could give those very quickly. Live your truth, believe in your truth, and trust your truth. And what that means to me, that she's asking for the top 3 things, and those are the top 3. Honest to God, they just came to me right as she was saying that, and I think that's the key. What I found is this. Everyone is waking up because we're told that this world is a dream. So we're waking up from a dream in some sense. But just as we all wake up differently in the morning from our bed, we all wake up at different times in different ways. And we can't possibly judge when or how or to what degree another person is awake because of choices they make in one facet of their lives may look to us like an unconscious choice, when another part of their lives they may be so totally tuned in. So my experience is the best that we can hope to do is live our truths for ourselves. And this is where the workshop of life begins, because it's easy to live your truth when you're in a New Age workshop or you're isolated in the monastery in the mountaintop halfway around the world. Where the challenge comes, go to a public school, go to your place of work, your employment, your friends, your family, and live what you know to be true in the presence of others, regardless of their beliefs or not. But here's the key, to live it in a way that's kind, to be kind to others, not critical, not judgmental, because someone else may not see or think the same way. This is where compassion comes in. But compassion is the end of a sequence. First, we must have sympathy. Then we must have empathy to gain compassion. You cannot have compassion without the empathy and the sympathy. And we've got to be able, you have to sympathize with someone else who's having a difficult time. That's recognizing the suffering. Empathizing is feeling that suffering with us, with them. Compassion is the ability to witness the suffering of another without judging it and without getting lost in the suffering. So this is where those people, the very situation that she's describing, is our greatest workshop, because it's where we learn to be and live our own truth in the presence of a world that doesn't always support that truth. You know, a place where I get this a lot, we have, I hired, well, it was a consultant to come into some of our workshops because I wanted to see who my audience was. And they did focus groups and things like that. And they compiled a beautifully bound volume of pie charts and bar charts of age groups and demographics. One of the things they found, we have a lot of young people that come with their parents, and sometimes 3 generations with their parents and their grandparents, to our events. And the young people, here's what they say. They say, Gregg, or Mr. Braden. I say, please call me Gregg. I don't know when I became a Mr. I'm not sure when that happened. They say, it's easy to live the way that you were talking about in this room with these people because we all believe the same thing. But when I go to my school, nobody thinks this way. And this is where a young person will be tested. And this is where, in my opinion, the parents can give them the guidance and the strength. If they know that what I call a spiritual rock, if they know their spiritual rock is who they are in this world and what their life is all about, because they've been through the guidance of their parents, have given them those values, then when they go into a situation where that's not supported, it's not a problem for them. It's when they are vulnerable, when they're lost, when they don't have that identity, and they go to school and they want to be with the in crowd, what they're doing, the drugs or the cyberbullying or whatever it is. They don't know who they are. That's where they become more susceptible to those things. So the things that we're talking about on a very spiritual level have a very practical application in our lives. When we know who we are, it's much easier for us to live our truth.
Well, thank you. It's obvious that you were drawn to the sciences for some reason.
Yeah.
So Cherry wants to know, how and when did it occur to you personally that all these aspects of history, spirituality, and science were all connected?
Well, that's a big question. I've answered this in some of the social media interviews that we've had. And it's no secret to our audience. I come from a very dysfunctional, alcoholic family. Father was alcoholic. He left our family when I was 10. Science and music were the refuge for me, in that order. I became a scientist at the age of 5. Didn't have a degree, obviously. So science has always been played a very powerful role in my life. And I've been drawn, I knew from the time I was 5 years old that I would be a geologist, and I was. I also thought I might be a rock star, and I'm still thinking about that one. But the role of science, the reason I think it's important is because science is a language. It's only one language. It's a way of interpreting our world. And for us to make the kind of changes that we all hope for in the world, to have the cooperation and the peace, the sharing, and the equitable kind of world we have, we've got to think differently than we ever have before. And people, I think, are willing to do that if they are given a reason. Science is a neutral language. It's not charged with religious connotations or with New Age connotations. So science is a way of honoring my audience through what I've come to understand. I began at 5 years old. I formalized it with my degree later on. But I also want to be really clear. Science doesn't have all the answers. Science is new. It's only 300 years old. Spirituality is over 5,000 years old. We've had spiritual understandings. So I think we owe it to ourselves to draw upon every iota of information that's available to us today, because we're in uncharted territory in our world, to draw upon everything to be honest, truthful, and factual. With the material that's real, hang on to it. With the stuff that's not real, let it go. That comes to healing, that comes to peace, that comes to free energy, it comes to medicine, all of those things. And allow the science and the spirituality to come together to marry the two into a wisdom that's greater than science could ever be alone, or that spirituality could be on its own, to give us the evolutionary edge to thrive, not just survive, thrive in the new world that's at our doorstep right now.
I'm just so thankful for science to help back these spiritual facts, really.
Well, science can help us know what's real and what's not. And if
Yeah.
it's not real, let's stop doing it.
The lost gospel of Thomas is powerful because it is believed to be the actual words of Jesus as he was teaching those around him how to use the power of human emotion in his life. I'm going to share two of these images with you. We said earlier, to unleash the force of the divine matrix in our lives, first, we have to understand how it works, and the science tells us how it works. Secondly, we must speak the language that the divine matrix recognizes, and science cannot tell us that. That comes from our past, from our culture, from our history, from those who have learned and used this language for thousands of years. So this is what we're doing right now. We're learning, what did Jesus and what did the great masters say about this language? Because it's the same whether you're talking Buddhist or Hindu or Christian, pre-Christian traditions, they're all telling us that there is a field of energy and that we have the language to use that field. This is an actual page out of the Gospel of Thomas. So we know that this ancient gospel actually existed. And you can see some of the letters. These are Greek letters. You can actually read some of, if you know Greek, you can see some of the Greek letters right here. In the Gospel of Thomas, two very important keys. This was written right around 300 years after the time of Jesus. In this gospel, okay, so here's what we're doing. We've been in the Buddhist monasteries in Tibet, and they're telling us that that feeling is the prayer, one. Two, that we must feel as if our prayers have already been answered. Okay, and now we're in an Egyptian monastery with the texts that used to be our tradition before they were edited. And we're going to look at the instructions that tell us how to do that. Okay if we do that? Is that good? Okay. Gospel of Thomas. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, this is verse 106, translated from the Nag Hammadi Library. And if you do not have a copy, it's in our books, and you can go to any library and pick this up. Verse 106. Look at what the Lost Gospel of Thomas says. It says, when you make the two, thought and emotion, one. So the Gospel of Thomas is talking about thought and emotion. It's saying when you make your thought and your emotion one, look at what happens. You will say to the mountain, mountain, move away, and the mountain will move away. It's saying that when you can marry your thought and your emotion into one single potent force, that is when you have the power to speak. Let's go back to the Gospel of Thomas, another verse. Now this is verse 48. It says almost the same thing. This was so important that it was recorded at least 3 different times in the same gospel. Look at what this says. If the two make peace with each other in this one house. When Jesus is talking about the house or the temple, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Precisely you. You are the house. You are the temple. If the two make peace with each other in this house, if thought and emotion become one, if they make peace with each other in this house, look what happens. They will say to the mountain, move away, and it will move away. He's telling us again, in a completely different verse, how powerful it is to marry thought and emotion. But they still haven't told us how. How do you do this? That's the next piece. In the early Christian Bible, your Bible today, there is a passage. How many have heard, ask and ye shall receive? Have you heard that before? Ask and you shall receive. Have you heard that? I know people that ask and ask and ask and nothing happens. Because the asking is not done with the voice. The asking is not done, please, please bring this to my world. That's not asking. To ask, we must speak to the field, to the divine matrix in the language that the field recognizes. And a language that's meaningful. The field doesn't recognize our voice, it recognizes the power of our heart. Remember this morning, our heart, we have a feeling, creates electrical waves, magnetic waves. That's the language the field recognizes. So when you create the feeling in your heart as if your prayer is already answered, that creates the electrical and the magnetic waves that bring that answer to you. And you're going to see this in just a moment. Ask and ye shall receive. While we still have this passage in our text, in the Bible that you have today, the King James Version, John 16, 23, 24, what you have is the condensed version. You have the edited version The edited version looks like this. This is the edited version. Whatsoever ye ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name. Okay? Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Okay, this is the edited version. This is so amazing to me because they took out the two sentences that tell us how to ask. In the 4th century, when the edits happened, they took those two sentences out. Would you like to see those two original sentences? Okay, we'll go back into the original Aramaic and we'll look at a new translation. This is the original Aramaic. It begins, it looks very similar. So this is the retranslated version with the missing pieces. All things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. It says, so far you've not done this, because if we ask with our voice, we have not done this. Now here's the piece that was edited. Here is what was lost. Look at these two very powerful sentences. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. Look at what it's saying. It's not saying to speak a word, it's saying to be surrounded, to feel as if. If you are surrounded, you are feeling as if your answer has already happened. Be enveloped. If you want the perfect relationship in your life, if you want the healing in the body of your loved ones, feel the feeling of what it is like as if that has already happened. Be enveloped by what you desire, because that is when your thought and your emotion become one. You think the thought of the healing in your loved ones, and you feel the love of that thought. They become one, and that is the language that this field recognizes. Does that make sense? Are you okay with that? You're going to see an example of this, another example here in just a moment. Ask without hidden motive. What does that mean? Hidden motive. Ask without judgment. This is precisely what the Buddhists are telling us. Ask without the judgment of the right or the wrong or the good or the bad. Ask without the ego. Ask from the heart. Let me give you an example then. Because to be, if it says be surrounded, that means to feel as if. To feel as if. Now, if that sounds too religious, because it's from the Bible, the philosopher Neville, early in the 20th century, his book, The Power of Awareness, look at what he says. It's the same thing. Neville says, you must make your future dream a present fact now by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, to come from the place that it's already happened. Now, this is what those practitioners did with that cancerous tumor. I want to just elaborate on this a little bit. They did not judge the cancer as wrong or bad or right or good. There was no judgment. They accept that tumor as a possibility, one of many possibilities, because in the quantum world, all things are possible. So they didn't say, bad cancer, you must go away. Or we're going to operate on you, or we're going to use radiation on you. They didn't do that. They accepted the cancer as it was, without hidden motive, without judgment. And they said, now we're going to choose a new reality by feeling, assuming the feeling as if the woman is already healed. So what they did was they felt the feeling as if the woman was fully healed, fully enabled, fully capacitated, already happened. And the chant that they were using, wasa, wasa, loosely translates into the words already done. Already done. And then when they got excited, they said, mate, 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 means now, 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 not a year from now, not a month from now, not 5 minutes from now, now, in the quantum world now. And her body responded. It must. Physical reality must respond to the language that it understands. So in the Buddhist traditions, they are telling us the quality of the feeling. And in the Judeo-Christian traditions, they are giving us the instructions to be surrounded, to be enveloped, how to create that feeling. And when you put those all together, it's something that happens in our hearts, not in our minds. Feeling as if the prayer is already answered with no judgment and no ego, and feeling from the result. Feeling from the result as if it's already happened. Are there any martial artists here in the room? Karate experts? I studied martial arts when I was in my 20s and 30s, a little bit in my 40s and 50s. Have you seen martial artists when they demonstrate their focus by breaking a concrete block? Have you seen that? You've all seen that before, right? Okay, here's the secret. Here is the secret to breaking that block. When the martial artist is focused on that block, the very last thing that they are thinking is about their hand hitting the block. Because if they think about that, they know it will hurt. So they focus on what happens after their hand has passed through the block, as if it has already happened. They focus on a place below the block and feel the feeling as if their hand is already in that place. That is a metaphor, that is an equivalent for what we're doing with the power of emotion. Feeling as if the experience has already happened.